But yeah, I'm excited to share the conversations the next few weeks, John, and it's been an absolute pleasure, my friend. Shame.
Shame. Yeah. Shame. Brilliant.
Hold on, before we finish, I know this is an audio podcast, but John, can you give me the blue steel?
I could do left.
I'm so glad this is an audio one until the video. Until next time in the video one.
Until the next time. Welcome back to the Sports Dentistry podcast. So we talked about them all year more. We talked about all these big events that were coming up this year for sports dentistry, and it's all over. Just like that.
I'm just going to get my tissues so I can continue to cry after the last weekend. You're right. And I think we did talk about how we build up all year. We talk about it, how good it's going to be, and it's going to be great to see everybody and the amount of effort that's been put in behind the scenes by the organizers and the committees. And then it just comes and goes. And I remember saying to you on the way to South Africa, we really need to try and soak it up every minute, every hour, just really be in the moment. And it's safe to say we did do that.
Yeah, we definitely give it a good try. It was South Africa, it was absolutely fantastic. I think I spoke about it in the pod before we left, but I wasn't overly looking forward to it because there was just too much in the same time and trying to get the balance right with the clinic. But it was so good. There's so much positive energy. Even just the way they kicked off the conference with the head medic of South African Rugby. There's so many big hitters in the world of sports medicine turned up, and it's not like they were across the street and they decided to pop in. Like some of these people were coming from Cape Town, which was a 45-minute to an hour drive away, maybe longer, depending on what area of Cape Town you're coming from. And they were putting that effort in to get there to support it. It's just sure, it's hard to explain. I was speaking to Vivek this week, and we were both agreeing it was really hard to explain to anybody that wasn't there the amount of positive energy that was about.
Absolutely. And that positive energy all started when me and you met in Frankfurt, I think. So we met in Frankfurt and we had a chat, and then we obviously had the overnight flight, and we get into Cape Town. One thing I asked for you was to trust me. Just trust me on Cape Town. Trust me on how it's going to go, the place it's going to be, the people that are amazing. I've been there before. And then obviously when we get to Stellenbosch and we dropped our stuff off, we were meant to actually have an interview set up with Philips, our main sponsors. And I had to reach out to Lauren and say, look, we were meant to be having this interview in a couple of hours, but we've been asked to go to the Academy of Sport to set up, to help the guys make sure that the AV's working and that the sponsors could come in. And it was great we did that, because when we went into the Academy Sport and we saw the setup, obviously we're grateful to Jinesh for setting up that conference in there, because it was absolutely unbelievable. Just knowing the amount of athletes and South African athletes, not just South African athletes, worldwide athletes that have been had their presence in that area, and then making sure the visuals were working, getting a line set up and PPS and FOMO and Flow as well. And then obviously getting our podcast set up and stuff. And we wanted to make sure that, yes, we've spent a lot of time from afar trying to help these guys organize it, but we very much want it to be a massive success for them. And I felt that evening when we went for dinner, there was me, yourself, Imogen, Vivek, and the OG, Mr. Ganda. He was there as well. And I remember Vivek saying, I'm nervous. He's like, I'm nervous about tomorrow. I'm anxious about tomorrow. It goes, brother, we've done all we can. Everybody's there. We're all rooting for you. We're in it together, so whatever happens, whether it's good or bad, we'll do it as a team. And I felt when the day started, and like you said, a lot of people were coming from all over the place to be there, that bond and that strength, as the day went on, I just felt it getting stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger, because the amount of people and the warmth that they were giving off, as you said, it is really hard to describe that. And you had to be there in that moment. And we're talking about some of the best medical professionals, best nutritionists, best sports dentists in South Africa. It's hard to let that sink in. Do you know what I mean? As you said, Clint, Darren, Janesh, Ragib, Jean, Adnil, Tamsin, Franz, like these, like I'm putting all the names out there, but I'm speechless, to be honest, when I think back and talk about it now with you. And did you get that same feeling as well as that day went on?
Yeah, it was absolutely fantastic. Firstly, in the meal the night before, I did give them a get out of clause. So I was like, if it does go bad, just blame us for coming in. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Keep your reputation here in South Africa. South Africa, just blame us. But it was fantastic. You also forgot there was somebody else at the meal. He did turn up a little bit late, but he did travel
Oh,
longer than we
yes.
did. Our
Yes.
good friend Christian from Paraguay.
Oh,
And as I
Christian.
was feeling sorry for myself after my 21-hour commute on the way home, and you know I love a good commute,
Yeah.
so 21 hours takes the biscuit a little bit. But when I heard Christian was still traveling to get back to Paraguay, I didn't feel as bad. So, but the as you said, the energy was unbelievable, and I didn't know these people. I didn't know the names. I didn't know the reputation that they had in South Africa, but that came very apparent. Like we had Darren Green, who had travelled to be the last medic to lecture, and he was the head medic for the whole stadium of Cape Town the next day, that weekend, the next day on the Sunday for the Sevens. And also apparently he's a TV personality as well. But
Yeah.
so he's given up his time to be there. And some, as you said, some big hitters in the world of dentistry as well. I think this is, I think this is important to say because maybe we don't talk about it as well. It's just like some speakers are used to getting paid for speaking, and it's not common in sports dentistry because we're not that developed yet, and our conferences aren't big enough maybe to be able to afford it, and everybody's doing it for the love. But we have two big hitters in there that run their own academy and their private academy, and it's probably the norm that they would get paid for speaking, and they actually reached out to be involved because that's how they saw they wanted to be, and you could see how slick their presentations were. You could see that this was something they do regularly as well, and I think when you're starting to see that and see how these big hitters wanted to be involved and not only just be there in case they feel like they're missing out on something, or they want to make sure that they're there because Imogen's just doing a good job on social media, so it'll go everywhere. They were there because they wanted to be there, and that positive energy that came across and the conversations. It was all just, it's, as we've said it before, sports dentists are just dentists that love sport. You know, or as you say, some of us are failed athletes, but it's just dentists that love sport, and you got that from everybody that was in the room. It's just as I said, it's hard to explain just that positive energy that was there for the whole weekend.
Definitely. And the question and answer session with Janesh and the two athletes, Nadine and Shakes, again, the way Janesh conducted that Q&A, just his mannerisms, the questions that he asked, he obviously knows them in quite an intimate level, and the respect that they had for him, calling him Doc, and the questions that he could ask and the honest answers they were giving. You know, we're talking about Nadine, who was Women's Player of the Year a couple of years ago, and she's been nominated again this year, Women's Player of the Year. Shakes, who is the the South African men's sevens captain, and they won the Cape Town Sevens last year with him being his captain. Two powerhouses who gave up their time to come and speak to us in a room, and you could see the local South African people being starstruck and being like, wow, we've got these two athletes and they're giving us the time. And afterwards, taking photos and having a chat. And we obviously saw them at the ground we saw Nadine at the ground the next day, and she gave us a wee wave and stuff. So I just
And she
felt
followed you on Instagram. So
she
you're
did indeed. Yeah, she did indeed. So it was really great to have that. And I think the day flowed so well. And the energy that Darren brought at that time of day was something to behold. And I thought he was sensational. And then obviously we get to the most beautiful, beautiful winery in Stellenbosch with Bar's Kloof and how they looked after us. And we were the only people in there. The food that was there, I was trying to sabotage John by taking his starter, you know. So I still think that was one of the best starters I've ever had, John. So thank you so much, my friend. And obviously the conversations then we had that night with delegates, with Marcus and Ilska, and then with Peter Van Buren as well. It was something where we've done the blueprint. The blueprint is there with sports dentistry conferences, CPD of the highest quality, Q&A of the highest quality, dinner and networking of the highest quality. And then that took us really nicely into our journey from Stellenbosch to Cape Town to the Sevens, and just the party atmosphere that was there. The sun was shining, the Boks were on top form, and it was just one of those carnival days that when we look back in years to come, we will always talk about that 24 hours, 48 hours of just the continued progression of being able to meet these like-minded people who are very similar to what we're believing and what we're trying to drive. And I really feel that the conference in South Africa will kickstart many organizations, many associations across the world. Obviously, at the same time, the Turkish one was happening, and as we speak, the Georgian one is happening. But there was a lot of really nice feedback from people talking about the podcast and about how they like listening to it because we're giving people who maybe not have who would not have had a voice otherwise are getting a voice to chat about their experiences and how we're doing. And I am forever grateful to these people who give up their time to allow us to interview them and get their experiences from the heart. And it, we look back now and we're a week out and it's still on a high. Like we're still on a high.
Yeah. The weather here is bringing me down a little bit.
Yeah.
But, yeah, but it was absolutely fantastic. And I would encourage anybody that's listening to this and has run sports dentistry conferences and thinking about running a sports dentistry conference. And I have a feeling, and you can correct me if I'm wrong here, but I have a feeling apart from our own and from advising Vivek and Janish to do this as well, I haven't seen it in other sports dentistry conferences, and that's the athlete Q&A.
Yeah.
And I find that is so powerful. Like you spoke about this, to speak about their experiences and their mindsets, because we almost, and Janish said it nicely to me as well. He says, sometimes we're at these conferences and we talk to them as though they're not people, and they should be doing this. And we spoke about it after Manchester about how, when we look at it from a nutrition point of view, we're saying this is bad for your teeth, this is bad for your teeth, this is bad for your teeth. And we think that athletes are going to listen to us. And that was expressed not only by David doing the nutrition talk, but also by our next guest that we have on today about they're looking for performance. And I think it's really good for like sports dentists to understand that mindset. Obviously, there's lots of sports dentists that work with athletes and work closely with athletes and they will understand that. But there is lots that are maybe looking a bit more from afar, where they're doing more of the research point of view, or they're young and they're just trying to get into sports dentistry. I think that is so powerful, that athlete Q&A. The athletes that Janisha brought, not only were the superstars in South Africa, they spent so much time afterwards. Like it wasn't just like a pop in here for half an hour Q&A and I'll go away and do something else. They stayed around, they chatted. They were one of the last to leave. I spoke to Nadine and I was like, well, how was because they created history last year or this year in the Women's World Cup where they got to the knockout stages for the first time. And I was like, well, I heard this World Cup was really, really good, that there was really big crowds and there's really good atmosphere. And she goes, yeah, it was, but it's just because I had played in the Olympics in Paris, there's better crowds there. You almost forget, at what level they play at sometimes. And she was saying about the full stadiums for the sevens competition at the Paris Olympics, and yeah, it was absolutely fantastic. So I would encourage anybody that's thinking about running a sports dentistry conference next year or sports dentistry event to get an athlete Q&A. And if we want any more example of that, our next guest was an absolute perfect athlete Q&A for us in Manchester.
Absolutely. And the first UK conference, when we had Tommy Seymour, who was a British Lion and Scotland international rugby player, Anna Sloan, who was an Olympic medalist with curling, and then Richie Bennington, who's a Cricket Scotland captain. All that up.
Just saying, the South Africans are very good at being Q&A athletes. Like Richie was very good to come to Edinburgh, wasn't he?
And then that obviously took us on to this year with Eilzabeth, who's joint rugby and dentist. And she spoke so well when you interviewed her in Manchester. I was like, we need to get her on to the pod. We need to get her story. So people who weren't there are now able to hear her story about what she's been able to do, how she's been able to juggle both being a dentist and playing professional rugby, but not just all the positives, but also to understand if she's had any drawbacks, if there's been anything that's been difficult for her, if there's anything she would have changed in her career or in her life and decisions that she's had or she's done. And again, we talk about really strong leaders, really strong women in this industry, and not just physically is Eilzabeth strong, but mentally and about what she's been able to achieve and what she's doing. It was only right that we got her onto the podcast and really get her views with it. And as you said, she spent so much time at the end of her Q&A in Manchester getting photos with people and speaking to them, and a lot of love and a lot of respect for Eilzabeth, again, for taking even more time out of our schedule to speak to us on this podcast. And we really hope that the conversation that we have with her will resonate a lot with people who are listening who maybe are in their younger years and they're still playing really good sport at a really high level and thinking, look, can I do professional sport? Can I be a dentist? What does that look like? And I think we need to be able to we've had Abtaha on as well, who's obviously took a break from dentistry to go and play professional cricket. And now we've got someone who's juggling it both at the same time. So the conversation, I know we've already recorded it, so I know it's an exceptional speaker, exceptional women. Really excited for people to hear this conversation because I think they'll be really in awe of what she's achieved.
Definitely. So let's go.
We are delighted to have Ionate as a sponsor for the Sports Dentistry podcast. Are you looking for a water bottle that's built to keep up with your active lifestyle? Look no further than Ionate, the totally leak-proof water bottles with triple lock technology to prevent spills no matter where you're headed. With a simple one-touch opening mechanism, you can sip on the go without hassle. Plus, Ionate's sleek, modern designs are not only functional but can be personalized just for you. Made from high-quality steel, these bottles are easy to clean and best of all, they're sustainable. From 320ml to 1200ml, Ionate has the perfect size for you, whether you're just out for a jog or going on a long hike. And it doesn't stop at water bottles. Ionate also has travel mugs and flasks to keep your drinks just right wherever you are. Ionate is the official water bottle supplier to the British and Irish Lions on their tour to Australia this summer, and are the official water bottle supplier to the NFL, so you know you're getting the best. I have been using their bottles for a long time now and cannot recommend them highly enough. So head over to www.ionate.co.uk to get your hands on the best bottles in the business, bar none. Now back to the pod.
It gives me great pleasure to welcome on the Sports Dentistry podcast this week, Eilzabeth Crake. Did say it right, didn't I? Crake.
Yeah.
Well, I'm really second guessing myself every time because I'm so bad at pronunciation.
Yeah, my teammates call me Crack anyway, so it's Crake is correct, but Crack is what I tend to get called.
We had the great pleasure of having you as our athlete Q&A at the last conference in Manchester, and we thought that it was such a good conversation that we need to have more of it, and we've got you on to the podcast. So thanks very much for coming on. So for anybody that maybe hasn't had the pleasure to meet you yet, just give us a little bit of a background to yourself and how you've got into just unique sports dentistry, where you're doing sports dentistry, but it's more that you're doing sport and you're a dentist.
Yeah, so I've been a dentist now since 2018, but I've been a elite like rugby player, I suppose, for the last 10, 11 years now. I started playing when I was like 14, 15. So technically I've been a rugby player longer than I've been a dentist. But yeah, I just kind of loved them both. I kind of wanted a career that would complement my rugby because that was kind of the priority for me. So I figured with dentistry, hopefully I could work part-time and earn enough to be able to work part-time. So it's worked out kind of so far. But yeah, I like to combine the two.
Yeah, like it's great. It's a little bit like you used to hear some examples of it. You used to have Paddy Johns used to play for Ireland, and he was a dentist, and he's not that too far. But yeah, he also played for Saracens at one stage as well. But you don't hear it as much in the men's game. anymore. So although we've just heard that one of the Kiwis, one of the All Blacks men's, is actually a dentist at the moment.
Oh, really?
So I was a little bit shocked when I heard that at the weekend, because it seems to be whenever they moved professional, the late noughties, whatever it was, that ability for people to have like a dual career, particularly like something like being a dentist as well as playing elite sport, didn't seem to happen as much, but it's still a possibility in women's rugby at the moment. Do you find that is there more examples like you, or is it find that you're unique in yourself?
No, 100%. I think obviously the tricky thing with women's sport is like it's, not a lot of it is fully professional. So in rugby, for example, we've got a mixture of players who are fully professional and players who aren't. So in our league, we've got quite a lot. There's a girl who's just retired from rugby, but she qualified as a dentist, I want to say 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago. There's one girl in our team now as well who's just applying. So she's actually Canadian, but she's applying over here to become a dentist. So she's doing all her applications, and luckily she's on my team, so I can kind of help her with those. Hopefully she gets a London-based university, otherwise she'll have to move. But there's a doctor, Simi Pam, she's in Bristol Bears. We used to have another doctor who played for Ireland, Claire Malloy. So like it's quite, like almost everyone has a career alongside. And then, yeah, there are quite a few of us who are, I suppose, in like medical or dental professions. So, I suppose it's relatively common for a small sport.
And so you picked rugby at 14, 15. Do you find that is a common trend where in women's rugby people are maybe going into it a little bit later than maybe other sports? Because you'd hear people would start at quite a young age in a lot of sports, and they have done. But is that something that rugby, maybe women's rugby, is developing where people are going into it a little bit later?
Yeah, 100%. I think definitely like my generation of players, it wasn't really something that I had access to when I was younger. There are several girls in our league, or kind of, as I say, in like my generation of rugby players who they did start when they were younger. So it does start combined and you're playing rugby with the boys. I don't even know what the age is now, but maybe around like 7 or 11 or something, they then stop that because they start doing contact training. So then it splits. And then unfortunately, a lot of girls get lost to that sport until they're much older. I was quite lucky, I suppose, that I had a PE teacher in school who played rugby at university. So then it got introduced in my secondary school. So I was at 14. When I picked it up, a lot of women pick it up more at university. I think now with where the league is going and the professionalism of it and the development and like the growth that we've seen, it is starting to become a sport where, again, you can pick it up late and you can be lucky and you can, grow into quite a talented athlete. But I think that's becoming fewer and further between now. Like the younger generations that are coming through, they've been playing rugby since they were, a bit younger, and they've had that development all the way through, and they've been picked up in pathways kind of along through. So I suppose it depends how old you are. But yeah, it's definitely a sport that I think women pick up later. It's very common that they kind of pick it up at university because it's, big social. Everyone likes to have a bit of a drink at university, and they pick a sport where drinking is quite, I don't know what the word is, approved of, I suppose.
Well, let's touch on that then. So going to university and doing dentistry and then playing rugby alongside that, how did you find managing dentistry and training and playing? Because I found it quite tough when I was playing quite a lot of cricket and I had to take quite a lot of time off clinics, and then I had to make a decision, but it was quite tricky. And one of our guests previously, Abta Maksud, she was doing dentistry in Glasgow and got to third year, took a sabbatical because she got a deal with 100 franchise down south, and she's had that for 3 years now. Now she needs to make a decision whether she's going to go back to university or is she going to carry on with the 100 franchise and continue playing professional cricket down south. And if she does go back to university, then she might have to start back at first year again because they're not going to keep her position open for that period of time. So the question to you is, how did you find juggling training, playing at such a high level and doing dentistry? Did you ever worry about getting injured? Did you ever worry about trying to stay on top of things when it came to lectures and clinics. Just talk us through that journey over the 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, like definitely I can see like it is tricky. And I think, like I was saying, like I think the generation that I was in, where the game was, I was very fortunate that, training was always in the evenings. So like I'd kind of finish university and be able to get to training and not have to worry too much. There wasn't loads of analysis. We didn't have loads of cameras, and like training wasn't filmed, and games were sometimes filmed like later on in my career or like my university career rather than like from the start. And, so it probably was potentially a little bit easier to combine the two in comparison to like now. I think I'd struggle a lot more now. So now we train technically 3 days a week. Because of my like going back to work, I only train twice a week, and I'm lucky that that doesn't affect kind of selection. But there's other teams where they train, like my old team, for example, they now train from about 3 o'clock in the afternoon and they're finished by 7 p.m. So like if you're at university, there's no way that you're able to do that. And so it does mean you have to make a choice. You have to either, and obviously with dentistry, it was 5 days a week. You didn't have, you might have Wednesday afternoons off if you were lucky, depending on your rota. Like if you played a sport at university, when I was there, you had to like apply to be one of the ones who got the Wednesday afternoons off. But now I think, realistically, to succeed in professional sport, like you do have to sacrifice that kind of career side of things now. And, it's a shame in many ways. Like I think I'm glad that I have a career to fall back on. But at the same time, I remember at university, I was quite upset and frustrated with how I was competing for spots, developmental pathways, so like England and under 18s and under 20s, and they had an academy side as well, like a B team. I was trying to compete for spots with players who were going to like Hartbury College, which is like the sports kind of college, doing, rugby was their degree essentially. And so you're like trying to compete with that. And I'm like, well, I've got 4 patients tomorrow. Like, I don't know. I'm trying to learn how to take a tooth out, and like they get to, play rugby all day. So like, it is very difficult. And as I said, I think for me, I grew up in the right time to be able to combine 2 careers and get my career or qualify with my career without it too badly affecting. I mean, I think it did affect rugby, but I think now it's a bit more of a struggle. You kind of have to choose to be like, okay, I'm going to do rugby until I retire, and then I'll choose my career from like later down the line. So you probably end up, coaching or doing sports, sports related degrees where they don't mind that you're missing it because you're missing it for a good reason. They understand it a bit more. So yeah, it's definitely wasn't easy, but I think I lucked out a little bit that I was just on the cusp of it becoming professional. So had a bit more time.
Yeah, I suppose you're possibly in a better situation than if you had to make that decision while you were still studying. At least you've got your qualification now, and putting it on pause possibly isn't as big as issue as if you were still trying to like get through the 5 years of university.
Yeah.
Does it ever, so when you're making that sort of decision with rugby, is it a constant struggle to decide between dentistry and rugby? I have a good friend that he grew up in hurling, but he ended up playing field hockey, and he got very good at it. And he's one of the most capped guys for Ireland. But at one stage, hockey is similar, where it's not fully professional, in some areas. But he got an opportunity to go and be professional in Belgium and Germany, and he spent 3-4 years doing that. So he finished his university, and he spent 3-4 years then being a professional hockey player. And when he came back, I remember speaking to him and saying, "Oh, it must be an absolutely fantastic experience and all." And he said, "It was, but like now I'm 4 years behind everybody in my career. And like, even though it was a great experience, we didn't really make any money. Yes, we got looked after, we got accommodation, we got money for food, we got a phone, but it was more just money to like get us through. It wasn't like, it wasn't setting you up for life." And now, even though it was a great experience, he now found himself in his head, he started to think, I'm 4 years behind in my career.
Yeah.
And I just stayed and been not a fully professional hockey player, just played internationally and played for my local club and carried on my career. Is that something that you feel a wee bit concerned about at times? Is that a struggle that you find yourself having?
Yeah, 100%. I think in many ways, as I say, like I am glad that I've got both, but I am very envious of like people who've got either one without having to combine them. So, you know, the girls who are coming through now are like, basically it's going to be their career and they're full-time athletes, and that's incredible. And like, I'm very, like, very jealous of that. And then there's like, with the dentistry side of things, you know, I've got colleagues in my year, or colleagues, you know, younger than me, graduated 3-4 years after me, who are, you know, I don't necessarily want to own a practice, but they're owning practices, they're working in private practice, and they're, you know, doing all these amazing things. They're going on all these courses, or even just for me, like I obviously did my like foundation training, but I couldn't go on to do DCT because, again, you know, foundation training I had to do just to be able to, you know, work. But like DCT was kind of, I would love to do it. I'm going to apply again, I think maybe next year. But because, again, it's national recruitment, you could get sent anywhere. That completely messes with your team selection in terms of like what team you go play for. And then again, you can't work part-time. You know, if you get an oral surgery one, you're on call, and max you're on call. Like I can't do that if I want to play rugby and I want to compete at the highest level and try my best. Like, it's not feasible. And I am jealous of that, because I feel like, I mean, if you take oral surgery, for example, like I would love to be better at taking out teeth. I really struggled to take a tooth out today. Like, it was not good. I had to get someone else to come and help me. Whereas like if I'd gone to DCT, like I've got, you know, colleagues who are taking them out left, right and centre with no struggle. It was actually one of my colleagues from my university. I had to send her like the x-ray, and I was like, is this going to be okay? Like, I really don't know. And so I think it does limit you in both careers. Like, I feel like my rugby, I could, if I had chosen a different career where maybe I was only at university, you know, 3 days a week for 3 years and could just do an easy like office job and that kind of thing, like potentially my rugby career wouldn't have been under pressure. Like with England, the first time I got called in to play for England, dentistry definitely held me back. Like, they were quite adamant that I wasn't allowed to go, basically because I hadn't finished my NHS target. And like, as a newly qualified person, I was very like, oh, okay, like that just must be kind of the way it is. And that held me back, because then the player who replaced me, and rightly so, she's an incredible player, became professional. She got a contract from that year and has been in the England setup ever since. And like, that could have been, like, that was my opportunity potentially. Whereas like, and then as I say, with dentistry, I do feel like I am behind. Obviously, I'd just taken about a year and a bit out because I did get a full-time contract. And then I've gone back in and I'm kind of back to like, it's, you know, a nice enough practice, but I was kind of got into quite a bougie practice before I had to give it up. So I kind of feel like, again, I've taken potentially another step back, but I still feel like I've made the decisions that were right for me at the time, even though I imagine in a few years I'll probably still be a bit bitter about them, but it is what it is.
but you know what it is though? Dentistry is always going to be there. And it's not going anywhere. There's always time to start doing specialty training or doing DC2 or whatever it is. And my advice would be that while you're still in a position where you're competing at the highest level within the game that you're in, there's opportunities that other people looking outside be like, wow, look at what she's doing. She is a dentist, yet she's still playing professional rugby. That's inspiring. And I said this to you at the conference, is like, just the way that you came across and the way that you talked about dentistry, we talked about rugby and how you interact with the other girls. And for me having a daughter, just that's the role models I want to see. You are the sort of women that I want her to see on the TV and meet in person. I'm very lucky that up here in Scotland, I'm quite close to a lot of the Scotland women girls, and I do quite a lot of work with them. And, you know, my daughter gets to see them play live and high fives them and just the smiles on their faces and the way they go about things. I think it's important to say that you shouldn't really think about, oh, I wish this would happen, or I wish I could have done this with that, because being a professional athlete and playing sport is finite. You got a finite time to do that.
Yeah.
Dentistry is always going to be there. And
Yeah.
trust me, you'll get to the point you'll be like, oh God, I don't want to be doing this every day. So, but I understand what you mean, that you were saying you were in a nice practice before. Not that you're not in a nice practice now, but it's slightly different in terms of what you're doing. You want to feel more confident about things. But that comes with time. If you're not doing something day in, day out, all the time,
Yeah.
it does become difficult, because all you need to do is see it once or do it once. Oh, that's how you do it. But then it's the same with professional sport. You need to be training and getting that 1% better all the time. So my question to you is this: if you could turn back the time, would you do anything differently?
Yes. I would have told my old NHS practice that I was not going to turn up and I was going to England come. But 100%, that's probably like, I think, like my biggest regret. I think realistically, what would they have done? Like, you know, made me pay back a bit of money from for the contract. Like, I'm sure if I would have found that money. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think if that was worst case scenario, but I think I was just so naive that I didn't know contract wise what they could do. So yeah, I think that would be my main decision that I would change. I've throughout my career, I have kind of thought, oh, do I change teams? Like, should I move clubs and various little things like that? You know, I do kind of describe dentistry a little bit as like golden handcuffs in terms of, you know, if I ever wanted to change kind of career, kind of a little bit like there's lots of things you can do with dentistry, obviously, but I do enjoy it. So I probably wouldn't, you know, change in terms of my career, but I think mainly it would just be being less naive and more, I'm going to do this because this is like my opportunity. So I think trying to take any opportunities with like both hands and running with it is definitely something I wish I'd done. But
Did you take any advice at the time?
well, I suppose I didn't really know many people who were in NHS practice because it was my first practice out of VT. So I'd kind of obviously spoken to coaches in terms of rugby. And like the England coach at the time who I was speaking to was lovely and was really understanding and was like, you know, it wasn't like I didn't feel at the time like if I'd said no, that was the end of that opportunity. And he was very nice in terms of the way he told me that they were going to have to call someone in. Obviously, they were going to have to call someone else in. It wasn't like cutthroat, but I think I don't know, maybe if I knew like a lawyer, I don't know, if I knew like, and I guess you've got like those dentists like Facebook pages, like maybe I should have been a bit braver and like posted in there and asked like if anyone had that, you know, what happens if you don't get the contract thing or you don't complete your target? Because yeah, I think I even think realistically they wouldn't have even made me pay back any money. Like I don't think they would have done anything.
Like it's one of my pet peeves with dentistry is now that I'm a wee bit older and wiser and I've had these bad experiences as well, but it's almost like you've had to compete to get a university place because they're so limited. Then there's a whole way through university. Some universities treat you a little bit better than others. But then there's the likes of your indemnity, where you have to get an indemnity. And, oh, by the way, the likelihood you'll get sued at least once in your whole dentistry career, there's that fear of thrown on you. Then there's the GDC, and it's like, oh, if you look the wrong way at a patient, the GDC is going to kick you off. So there's all this sort of fear in dentistry when you're such a young dentist and you don't know any better, and all you're trying to do is get qualified, get through your VT, the foundation training, whatever it's called now, and then you start working. Like the first experience of working for people in these private practices, you are quite fearful of saying, because that's the way we've been brought through the system. This fear around not saying the wrong thing, not doing the wrong thing, and you kind of think, and these people at some of these practices that get us in, especially as associates, they only see us as a number anyway. They're looking at, I get an associate, they're going to make so much money for the practice, that they're going to do this for the practice. They're not thinking about you as an individual. That's probably at that stage. Was it a corporate you were working for, or was it an independent practice?
No, it's an independent actually. It was, but also it wasn't even the principal. It was the practice manager, and she was new to that practice, or like relatively new. And yeah, I suppose unfortunately I didn't really get on with her. I wasn't there for much longer afterwards. But yeah, I think even if I'd just been brave enough to speak to the principal.
Yeah.
But I just kind of assumed, I guess, that she had spoken to him and that was, you know, the kind of thing. So there's like lots of things like I could have done differently, I think. But as you say, like I mean, I'm still like pretty fearful
Yeah.
now. Like,
Yeah.
so yeah, I think, yeah, I wish I'd been a bit
At
braver.
least, I think at least you'll be in a position now where if somebody else is in a similar situation, obviously with this being a sports dentistry podcast, there's hopefully lots of other dentists, dental therapists, or dental hygienists who are listening who may be in a similar position and they might want to ask advice. And it's in a way, it's probably quite nice to hear your story with it and how you would do things differently. And there's obviously Abta and how she did it, and I suppose in the way I did it. In the last few months, things have been a little bit different with me. My wife's been having some treatment, and actually my practices have been very good. And I basically just said to them, actually, my mentality is now changed with what's been going on. And what I've realized is that you are replaceable. Like John was saying there, as a dentist or as a self-employed practitioner, somebody else can come in and take your job, but it's about how you treat everybody else at work and how they treat you too. And I realized that actually, things are more important, whether that's to do with a family thing or in your position, it's a sport thing. That to you, that is important. That's your life. That's what you love, and that's what you live and breathe. And you want to do the best that you can in it. And you've got your England caps, but you want to get more, and you want to be winning things that we talked about just off here before you came, which we'll touch on about winning things. And I think that's the drive that you need to have. And I think it's important that, certainly for newly qualified practitioners, is that if there is a love that you have, there is an interest that you have, whether it's sport, whether it's music, whether it's something else, you should 100% do it, because life is short. Things can change in an instant. And while you've got health, fit, good health, and you're in a position that you can do something, I'm all for it. And I think it's brave for you to come out and say that you're obviously still upset. I can hear it in your voice. You're obviously still quite upset about what happened, because you felt you had still a lot more to give. And my I'm not trying to give advice at all, but there's still enough in the tank to kind of keep going. And it's really great to see people like yourself doing well in that situation and making the most of it, because a lot of people would have just said, actually, I just don't want to do it anymore at all, and just give it up completely. Yet you're still willing to sacrifice. You're still willing to put the hard yards in when your teammates are maybe training that a little bit more, doing that extra session. And you need to stay on top of your fitness. And on your social medias, you're very, very funny. You're very good at that, and showing us in the day of a life of what you're doing. And it just shows you that you're human, first of all, and that you have these passions. And it's great to see, and you will inspire other people to do it. And I hope people can reach out to you. Going forward, what does rugby look like to you now?
In sports dentistry, it's not just about treating injuries. It's about optimizing oral health for peak performance.
That's right, because when athletes push their limits, every detail matters, even their oral health.
That's why the Sports Dentistry podcast is being powered by Philips, true innovators in oral health technology.
Philips Sonicare toothbrushes use advanced sonic technology to disrupt plaque biofilm, removing up to 20 times more plaque than a manual brush.
And that's critical for athletes. With high carb diets, dry mouth, and frequent energy supplements, there are greater risk of caries and gum disease.
Philips backs evidence-based dentistry, giving us tools that fit perfectly into performance-driven treatment plans.
So whether you're helping your athletes recover, protect, or perform,
elevate your protocol with Philips.
So I think I had quite a tough year with it last year. As I said, I did get an England contract, and I kind of thought that was going to be a lot better than it was in terms of, one, my performance. Two, I was obviously hoping to play in the World Cup, hoping that was going to be, onwards from there, and I was going to stay contracted and be in the squad and, be all these things. And unfortunately, like that didn't happen. And I ended up really hating the game and not really wanting to play. I wasn't getting on at club either. So for me, my contract was taken away, and then, I wasn't renewed. It wasn't, they paid me for the full year. And then I kind of moved clubs, and my biggest aim for this season and kind of going forward is I just wanted to fall back in love with the sport. Like there's a reason I played this game, and there's a reason that I was so passionate about it, and I've worked so hard, like from the age of 14, it gives me something, and I didn't want to end on such a bitter and sad note. Like my career was worth more than that, and I wanted other people to know that I didn't just fizzle out. So this year has been all about trying to get that enjoyment back and it's new team, new teammates, a new season, like it's a new cycle, whether England ever call me again, like if they do, great. If they don't, I just want to prove enough, to myself, but also to like other people that it wasn't like a waste and that I'm not just some random person who got like 1 or 2 caps. Like my career in this league has been, I don't know, like something to be proud of, I suppose. And yeah, I guess I just wanted to prove a point. Like I feel I keep saying like nothing motivates me more than like a mortal enemy. It's really bad, but like nothing, I've been very motivated by the fact that last year coaches didn't think I was good enough, and maybe I just needed a bit more of that spark to like, I feel like I'm playing really well. I'm back to enjoying it. I actually like training now. Like before I was there because I had to be. And now like I actually enjoy going. I now like defense. I never liked defense. Like I obviously I play a tackle sport, but I like the attack. But now I'm like really into defense, which has never been me. So like it's been really good. And like I feel really like refreshed with it. And so yeah, I don't know whether season like, I don't know how much longer I want to play, but at least I know now that, this season has renewed that kind of love for that sport. And yeah, it was still early days, but as long as I'm like proving my point and showing people that, there's life in this girl yet, like I'm happy. So that's kind of what it looks like for me. And hopefully they call and then I can be like, yeah, I know.
Actually, just talk us through them conversations. So you was a semi-pro, you were working as a dentist and then you were playing, and then what was that conversation that got you into like a contract with England? And then on the flip side, now where the contract has run its course, what was that conversation to be like? Who contacts you to offer that, and then who's contacting you to say it's not there anymore?
Yeah. So it was really like random. Like I hadn't been, the last time I was kind of in England camps was probably 20. So I was capped in 23 and then probably wasn't really in the camp for a year. And then, right, maybe I went in like one just to help like hold a tackle bag, but nothing like special. I wasn't ever going to get selected. And then I got a call at the end of must have been the 2024 season. And they just said like, oh, we're going to give you a contract. And I just remember being like, I didn't even have his, so the guy who phones, he kind of, I don't know his full title, but he's like head of like operations essentially. So he's not the head coach or one of the coaches, but he deals with all the contracts. So he phoned me because I remember he phoned me after my first caps and said that, oh, you haven't got a contract. And I was like, I didn't even think you were going to call me to tell me whether I did or didn't. So like, I didn't even know I was in the conversation. So that's fine by me, like fine. And then as I said, at like end of the 24 season, he called me and I was in the car with my receptionist from my work because I was dropping her home. And didn't even have his number saved on my phone. So I answered because I was like, oh, what? I didn't know if it was anything too important. And he was just like, oh, so good news, we're going to offer you a contract. And I was like, sorry? Like, I didn't even know you even knew I still existed. Like, cool, thanks, great. And he was like, obviously, we know you've got a career. You can have a read of the contract and, decide. Essentially, the vibe that I was getting was like, you can quit now. And I was like, great. But I didn't want to say that to my receptionist when she was asking me after the phone call. She's like, what does that mean? I was like, oh, no, I'll probably try because I only work there on a Friday. And I was like, no, I'll probably ask if I can still work Fridays, even though in my head I'm like, my notice is going in tomorrow. So, I am done. But so then, yeah, I kind of went home and my coach at the time, she called me and she literally on the phone was like, how about that? And I was like, what has happened? Because neither of us expected it. Nobody expected it. Like I had said, and I suppose it's the power of manifestation, which whether you believe in it or not, it's the stories that I went into one, I think, random camp and I came home and I sat at my kitchen table and I told my housemate, one of my teammates at the time, and I just said, I just think they're going to give me a contract. And she was like, okay. And I was like, yeah, I don't know why. Like they've not said anything, but I just think they will. And then it was like 2 or 3 months later that I got this call. And like, that wasn't me genuinely thinking they will. I just kind of, I don't know. I just said, I'm just going to talk it into existence. So then that kind of worked out for me. Got that contract that no one kind of thought I did. So that was great. And then obviously, as I say, it didn't really go very well. I kind of got into the camps less fit than I would like to. Unfortunately, I was told that I wasn't allowed to train the way that I'd been training. So I was given a contract because I was fitter than some of the other players in my position. That was like one of my super strengths. And I did that because I do a lot of CrossFit on top of the training that we do. But I was told by England, unfortunately, or by the S&C that, it wasn't necessary. I was going to be doing too much otherwise. So obviously they were paying my wages. I did what I was told. And unfortunately, it just didn't work out for me the way that their kind of programming was. So I actually came in less fit than I wanted to be. So I wasn't as confident. I didn't run around as well. I didn't move as well. So I didn't perform very well in the camp when I did go in. So I got dropped pretty quickly and then kind of was out from then on, basically. And even at club, I'd kind of gone back to a different coach now and tried to ask for kind of feedback and things like that. And it just kind of spiraled in terms of my confidence and my performance. And it was kind of desperately clawing at trying to play well and not feeling good. And so, yeah, unfortunately, it didn't go very well. Obviously, wasn't expecting them to keep me contracted because, they've been paying me all year and not needed me. So then I got a similar call, I think it's February time. What was that, 20? Must have been, 25. And essentially, fair play. He was just the same guy. And he was like, look, we're not going to renew your contract. And I was like, yeah, I didn't expect you to. And then I did have a bit of a word about how I felt like I was kind of treated with it and how disappointed I was and how I felt the kind of year had gone. And, I was very hurt. To be honest, probably quite depressed, in terms of the year. I was quite isolated because I no longer had a job. I had nothing else to do. All I was being paid to do was play rugby, and I wasn't even playing rugby really because even at club I wasn't being played. So I was just kind of sat at home watching a lot of telly, scrolling on social media, and so it wasn't a particularly great conversation. But I think it's as fair as it could be. What else could he say? He couldn't really be oh, we're going to keep paying you to do nothing. So it was fair, but it was obviously quite difficult. But cutthroat elite sport.
When you got that first, See when you got that first call to say that they're going to give you a contract. How many years post-grad? How many years after that call that you turned down? How many years was that?
4 actually, maybe, because that was COVID year as well. So I was called in probably might have been early 2021, I think, when I was first called in. And then, it was 2023 when I got my first cap. So, and then 2024 when I got the contract.
So what was the difference in mindset then from that first call when you were thinking, oh, I can't step away from the dental practice, to the time you get the second call and you're like, I'm having my notice in tomorrow morning?
Yeah.
How did that mindset, was that just experience of doing a few years in practice, understanding the dental practice setup a wee bit better, or was that just that I missed that opportunity last time, I'm not going to miss it this time? What was the difference in the mindset?
Definitely I wasn't going to let that opportunity go again. And I think as well, luckily I was in private practice, so I didn't have a target, and I had enough notice, so the camps, when I was invited in, I didn't get a lot of notice. That they didn't, call me 3 months in advance. It was, can you come into camp next week? So I think I did 2 or 3 camps where I'd called in to work and said, I can't go because I've been called into camp. I think I did 2 or 3 weeks of that. And then I think it was on the 4th week, I had to be I can't take another week because of the contract. Whereas this time round, they called me at the end of the season. So it was basically I had 4 months really before I had to go into camps. So I knew I had, I could hand in my notice, and, standard, you have 3 months notice period. So I could stay as long as they needed me until a certain date, and then I was done. So it was obviously a lot easier to be able to leave. But yeah, definitely mindset wise. But then now in hindsight, I'm a bit I wish I didn't give up my job because I didn't really need to in the end. So I suppose it's two different ones. One I should have quit, and the other one I should have just kept it because they didn't really need me. But yeah, who knows? Can't win.
Did you you put it down to maybe not not being able to prepare yourself the way you used to. Have you reverted back to what? Have you went back to CrossFit now? Have you reverted back to what was getting you results and
Yeah.
making it more enjoyable?
Yeah. Like, it also just, I love CrossFit. I love competing. I'm such a competitive person. So that kind of extra fitness just makes a huge difference. And it makes such a huge difference in the game. I think it's one of the only like fitness type regimes, I suppose, that gets you as close to kind of rugby fit as you can be, because you're kind of doing burpees, you're like down and up, you're kind of constantly having to do all these varied exercises, which you will do on a pitch. And like, yeah, the difference, because I don't think I haven't really improved in skill. Like I'm 31 now. So realistically, I'm about as good skill wise as I'm going to get. Like I'm not in a peak development years. Like I'm not young and I'm not suddenly like everything's new. So, skill wise, I'm about as good as I'm going to get. But what makes a huge difference is fitness. Like the difference between the end of last season and the start of this season. Granted, I've like lost a fair bit of weight because I was carrying like a lot more weight than I wanted to be. And like that, again, will have an impact, both positive and negative. But then like I can now play an 80-minute game and still have as many impacts in the 70th minute as I will in the first 10. So that just makes such a big difference. So like, yeah, I straight away, as soon as the season was done, I took 2 weeks off and then I was absolutely hammering it back in the gym. So yeah, I think that's my biggest advice to anyone who wants to be like fit and good at their sport is to do extras and do CrossFit.
He didn't say to you like, CrossFit will be a bit too much, but if you do Hydrox, it'll be okay.
Yeah, no, definitely.
You haven't been pulled over to the dark side of Hydrox, no?
No, I do want to. It's on my thing, but I'm not a runner. Like I'm a short sprint kind of gal. So like you essentially run about 10K in a high rocks. It's like, that's a running race to me. Like I'm not, I can't see that. I think I will do one. I've been very tempted, but it's very hard to get tickets. And then obviously I can't do it in season, but I do some of the classes, but yeah, I've got to get better at running first.
Yeah.
So what does a typical week now look like for you?
So I do, technically we're supposed to have 3 days. So on a Monday now, I will do like a CrossFit session in the morning and before work. Then I work 8 till 6. And then I have Tuesday off. We'll normally start training at about 3:30. We do speed and skills. I will sometimes in the morning on a Tuesday do so we're supposed to do like an uppers. We do, sorry, this, it's not very, what is the word? I don't even know what I'm looking for. Basically, we're supposed to do 3 gym sessions a week. So we do an uppers, a lowers, and a full body. So the uppers is supposed to be on a Monday, and we're supposed to have some skills on a Monday. But obviously, because I work and I can't deal with going to the gym after work, so I will sometimes do the uppers on a Tuesday. Then I'll go to the training ground. I'll do the speed and skills session. Then we have a gym session. Then we do training until about 9 p.m. And then Wednesday, I go back to work. Again, 8 till 6, plus or minus, depending on how I'm feeling, CrossFit session in the morning. And then Thursday is similar to Tuesday. So training from 3:30, speed and skills, gym, and then training till 9. And then Friday is usually like an off day in terms of like exercise or like a light session if we've got a game on a Saturday. And then again, I work 8 till 6 on a Friday. And then sometimes we have captain's runs. So if we've got a Sunday game, because they don't want to leave it too long between like sessions, basically, we'll do like a little captain's run potentially on a Friday evening, which is always quite tough because then I have to leave work early. But then because I work in like Surrey, and then our training ground is like northwest London, so it's like a 2-hour drive on the M25, and I get to training and I'm like, I can't even see, like I don't know what's going on. I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing, but so that's quite a tough day. And then yes, either games on a Saturday or a Sunday, and then rest the rest of the day. It's a bit of a mix and match depending on how my body's feeling, I suppose.
I mean, it is quite a full-on week, and you need to be completely committed to it, doing the training and the going before work and having, I suppose, time to rest, recover. And amongst all that, you're seeing patients, you're having good days at the office, you're having bad days at the office, like you said today, a difficult extraction that you're having. So it's really inspiring that you're managing to fit it all in. but the sheer love of it is what kind of gets you through, right? And that's what kind of keeps bringing you back. And I think that's something that's important, that people who are listening, what advice would you give to somebody who's been in a similar situation to you, an aspiring athlete? What advice would you give to them if they were trying to juggle being an athlete, a professional athlete, and dentistry? From your experiences, what could you give to somebody?
Oh, I think everyone will say to be really organized, but I'm not going to lie. Like, I'm not organized. Like, I won't get stuff done on time. Like, I'm not, like, if that's your personality, great, but like, it's not mine. I will like maximize time off feet. So like, I watch like a lot of telly because like I will be as lazy as I can outside of those times when I have to train. So like, that's when I'll get like maximum recovery, because I'm not walking around going on like walks or doing all these other things. And I think it's trying to find the time that works best for you. So although I know getting up to do like a 5:30 gym session, like CrossFit session in the morning, it's not great in terms of sleep, and like I'll hate it when I'm getting up, but I know I feel so much better for the rest of the day, and my body feels more prepared. And like, even just psychologically going into games and training weeks, knowing that I've done those sessions makes me feel so much more confident than if I left them. So I think it's like minor sacrifices for major gain is like the main thing that I would focus on. Definitely work part-time, like, and like, as I say, try and be really disciplined and like set boundaries as much as you can. Like, be as honest as you can with your principals in terms of like what works for you, because it has to work for their business. Of course it does. But I think if you're really honest with them and you're saying like, this is really important to me, as we were saying earlier, I feel like most places will, they're human. So they, can help you as much as you can, even if that means, you work a later shift, or I don't know, you don't have a lunch and you leave early, like something along those lines. I think that's kind of the only advice really I can probably offer, is just like trying to find ways that work for you. It's not going to be the same for everyone.
Do you afford a commute between everything? Like, how have you been able to do that? Have you moved? Like, have you moved where you've lived to be closer to rugby clubs or closer to work to make it work for you? Is that also something that you've had to consider?
Yeah. So depending on like where I've been, so my last club, actually, the way that they kind of paid me essentially was, well, I used to live in one of the houses. So they had like team houses. And so I basically could walk out the back garden 2 minutes before training and be at the club. So like, those kind of opportunities, if they're available, are invaluable. Like being able to get home, especially, as I say, most women's sports potentially training in the evenings. So being able to get home and like have enough time to shower, eat properly, and have enough time between when you're eating and going to sleep that you're not feeling all bloated and gross. That's like a massive thing. At the minute I commute, so I kind of live southwest London. I commute to northwest London for rugby, and I commute to like Surrey, outside of London, for work. So kind of complete opposite ends. But luckily, again, it's kind of making it work around your schedule. So like, I don't work on the days that I train, because I'm not. The reason I didn't go to so I play for Saracens, and I originally 2 years ago had an offer from them to move to that club, to them, and I turned it down because I was like, if I have to drive from work, I was working kind of Putney at the time, and I was like, if I have to leave work at kind of 5:00, drive to Saracens, I might just about get there at 7:00 on time, but I would have sat in 2 hours of traffic. And like, I'm not going to decompress in traffic. I'm not the best driver in terms of road rage. I'm like aggy that I'm going to be late. So like, I don't want to sit in traffic. So now I just make sure I don't work on those days, so I can leave as early as I need to get like the least amount of driving in terms of like traffic. And like, luckily my commute for work, because it's 8 till 6, like I miss the rush hour either way. So that's not too bad. But as I say, on a captain's run day, if we have to drive from work, it's horrendous. So I think taking that into account is a big deal. Like, realistically, I don't need to live somewhere really nice. if I can be closer to my sport or my work. The minimal commute time. I'm not someone who reads on my commute either, so like I can't make it productive. It's just like get me there and then I'm done. So yeah, I think if you can lower your commute, 100%.
Yeah, definitely. I don't even want to talk about my commute at the moment.
You're speaking to a guy in John who has to travel 2 hours there and 2 hours back every day, and I don't know how he does it.
I can't,
So-
absolutely not.
The facility you talked about having to go home to shower, is that what came to mind there? Was the facilities? So the facilities, have they not developed as quickly as the women's game?
So no, to be fair, so the reason I would do that at my old club is because I lived at the ground. Now I shower at the club because I don't want to get home and then still have to shower before I go to bed. Plus that'll probably wake me up, to be fair, and then I'm going to go to bed and I'm like wired. So no, like facilities wise now we get to use, most of the clubs in the league use like the men's facilities. So it's just the same. We don't always get exactly the same access, but like Saracens are really good with it. Like we use the home changing room, like we get full access. We train and play in the stadium, apart from on a Monday where we go to kind of St. Albans, which is, as I say, I'm not there anymore, but same thing that the men do. So like we get the same access. It's definitely something that's growing. Like different clubs have different facility access depending on, and like it's better than it used to be. It used to be that my old club, like at the start of kind of women's like Premiership and becoming a bit more professional, like we would have a home game. We'd get to play on the first team pitch, but we weren't allowed to use the first team changing room because that was the boys. And it's like, well, we're the Premiership team. Like,
Yeah.
we're playing in the top league and they're in like 6 or 7 leagues below us and they're not even getting paid. Like, what? Why can't we use the first team changing room? And like our stuff would get stolen all the time because like it wasn't locked away because the first team changing room was locked, but ours wasn't. And it took a couple of years before we got to use that. So I do think it's funny, like you look back and I want to be like, I like to tell like the young girls like what it was like and like, how the game has grown, because it is so impressive now. Like we get fireworks at stadiums and like 4,000 people coming to games and, names on the back of our shirts, and like our washing is done. So like at Sarries, they do our laundry for us like that. It's so cool. Yeah, that would never have been a thing like 6 years ago, 7 years ago.
Do you throw your tunics in as well? Just flip a few tunics.
Yeah, if only. But like at the same time, like you still want to push for more. Like there's still ways it can grow. But I think, luckily facilities wise, most clubs are pretty high. And we get fed, like Sarries food is great. We get food, snacks, lunch, like collagen things, like all this extra stuff just from being around the club. And then we get a nice dinner at the end, which again is like huge growth. So it means you don't have to worry about it by the time I get home at like 10:30. I've already eaten.
Yeah, I mean, women's sport is becoming more mainstream now. You're seeing it on TV, you're seeing it in the media, and I know that next year the Scotland-England Six Nations game is actually going to be in the big stadium in Murrayfield for the first time, which is fantastic to see. And I know, like I said before, I have taken my daughter and her little friends there. They love it, and it's going to be a spectacle, and the fireworks. And you want it to kind of bridge that gap between the men's game and the women's game, and the only way is up. And everything that you've just said there, and all
I would just say, Eilzabeth, if the bagpiper isn't on the stadium, they just refuse to play.
They will be. Scotland always put on a great show. You know that. Always been a great show. Who was going with that? Yeah. So I think it's from what you've described to where you were playing years ago to where you're at now. I suppose you do need to let the girls know what it was like, because everything just gets taken for granted as you kind of go through, right? As you become more professional, as you start to get access to a lot of things that the men's game has had for such a long period of time. The contract you've got with Saracens, how many year contract is that?
So I'm on a 1+1. So technically it's like 2 year, but they can end it in a year if they want to, or I can. So I was a bit nervous. I have commitment issues, so I was like, don't make me sign a long one.
Okay. So that'll take you to end of next year then, is it? End of next season or end of this season? Is that your two?
The end of next season, yeah.
Next season. Okay, good. At least that gives you a bit of security as well, doesn't it, in terms of work and giving yourself every possibility and every chance to take it as far as you can.
talking about the aspirations there, but is it now for rugby? Is it because you talk about World Cup cycles? Is it like, is that what you're thinking now? Are you thinking let's give it one more World Cup cycle? Just is that like a marker? I know you've maybe used that before, and people use that. Is that kind of what you're thinking now, or are you very much taking it year by year?
Yeah, I think kind of year by year. As I say, like, as much as I would like England to call me and be like, we're really sorry and like, we want you back. Like, I think I'm going to be realistic. Like, as I say, I'm 31. If they want a World Cup cycle, they probably aren't going to bet on me. Do you know what I mean? So they're going to want to develop players. They've got, like, the players that are in the team at the minute are younger than me already. So they've, got a fairly safe bet with them anyway. So I think it would be great to be able to play for them again and like to finish my career on like that kind of high. I'm not saying that I wouldn't push for it. I think if the opportunity came by, of course I'm going to say yes, but I don't think I'm going to be like, I'm not going to like hold out for that, because as I say, I will be very shocked if they ever call me again. And it's a difficult one because like, I don't want to, like, as I say, maybe I'll speak into its existence like I did last time. But yeah, I think for me, I just want to end my career on a high, and whether that's playing club or getting to play country, like I'd love to play in a World Cup, but that's kind of a bit beyond my control. Like I can't control that, and I can't control selection. And I could play the best this season. I could be the best player in the league, but I still might not get selected because I'm older, or, they've got somebody else, or, and it could be anything. So I think for me, I'm just trying to do right by my career and like my aspirations in terms of finishing strong and playing well and enjoying it. So yeah, it'd be great. I'd like to play for barbells again. I keep texting the manager and being like, because when I got my England contract, she texted me, she's like, oh, so you won't be able to play barbells next year. And then I was like, oh no, sorry. As soon as my contract kind of ended, I texted her and I was like, right, my contract's up, so I'll play. And obviously there's a Lions tour, like that would be incredible. But like, again, you have to be like the best of the England players to be able to be selected on that. So like, that's not, I think for me, I'm focusing on enjoying the game and like trying to teach like younger players what not to do maybe, and like things to look out for. Because although the game is developing, I think some younger players can get taken advantage of. So I think now I'm more focused on inspiring younger players, which is like not something that I was particularly fussed about before. Whereas like now I'm older, got big old wings, they can come on under.
That's great. Thanks very much for your time, Eilzabeth. It's always great to chat. I'm sure the next time you have you on the podcast, you'll be preparing for Six Nations or something like that. Now that,
Yeah.
or maybe the next World Cup. You never know.
Never know.
Once that CrossFit training starts kicking in again, you'll be flat.
Yeah, I'll be at the CrossFit Games maybe next time.
Yeah.
What is it? The overs category, probably. Yeah, thank you very much for having me.
No, it's been great. Always good to chat.
Yeah, no, it's been great, Eilzabeth. Thank you so much for your time, as always.
No worries.
And chat soon. Got to spend even more time talking to Eilzabeth. Like, it's so easy to talk to. Great experiences, and it's great to get that understanding. But it's just when she was explaining about that missed opportunity, there's a wee bit of annoyance in me about just the fear that is put into people in the dental industry. You've got the fear coming through. I don't know if it's in the same universe. Is it just a mindset in the UK? But you get that sort of fear. Don't kill anybody when you're going through university. To like, don't do anything that you aren't fully trained in, or the GDC will get you kicked off, and everybody's going to get sued at least once in their career. So all this like fear tactics, and then you go in as a young dentist and you're working for people, and you're almost afraid to ask for a day off. You're almost afraid to ask for time off. You're told if you want time off, you have to give us at least 6 weeks notice. Like, what our industry does that. You're expected to work over lunch. You're expected just to work late if you need to work late if you're seeing patients. It's just like an expectation of, you need to give us more. You need to give us more. This is just it. And there's that fear of not, and just when Eilzabeth was explaining that she didn't know how to ask the practice manager about taking time off for this, her first England opportunity, and the knock-on effect for that.
Yeah.
It's just, annoys me a wee bit about the dental industry in the UK sometimes, about how that environment has been created.
It's not just the UK, actually, because when we were in South Africa, I was speaking to PPS, who are an indemnity company in South Africa, and we were having conversations about how we talk about defensive dentistry and how we worry about the GDC and about how we should be treating people. And they were saying the exact same things happens there. The exact same conversations that we have here, that me and you are having with them and with PPS. And they were like, it's a worldwide thing. It's not a UK thing. It's not a South African thing. It's a dental worldwide thing. And I'm not sure why that is. I suppose because the perception that people have of dentists is that, we roll about in Ferraris and Bentleys, and we've got private airplanes and helicopters and things like that. But the amount of graft and hard work that we put in to look after our patients, and I'm talking majority of dentists or healthcare professionals want to look after their patients and want to do the best for them. And you'd only do treatment on them that you would do for your own family. So it's really interesting to hear Eilzabeth's side of thing. And I can't remember if she actually said it on the podcast or not, but she said that when she got called up for England, she had to move some patients around. And one of the patients had made a complaint because she had to move her patient around, but she had just been selected for England Rugby. Like how much, make that add up. Make it make sense. Make it make sense.
Yeah, I don't know. That might be a little bit of an NHS mindset. I think that's from the NHS practice, and it's almost like we get this healthcare for free going up, and we expect it all for free, and we expect it right here, right now. And how dare somebody cancel my dental appointment to go and play for their country or train for their country? It doesn't make sense. And it's just, I think it's because a lot of people do go into dentistry because they want to help people. And I know that's the way we are. We want to help people. Sports dentistry, we want to help our athletes. We're going to spend God knows how many hours outside the clinic helping them. And we're doing it because we want to help people. And I think maybe that's why dentists maybe get taken advantage of a wee bit, because they'll know they'll suck it up and they'll do it because internally they're good people and they want to help people. And maybe that's why it's just developed over time. But it's just to hear someone that this year, I remember she maybe didn't speak about it much in the podcast, but just talked about it in Manchester, where she found it really hard to watch England play at the start of the World Cup this year, because it was almost thinking that could have been her. Different scenarios, maybe she took that first opportunity and her development happened at a faster rate, and then or different. And then she did get her caps, and then things didn't progress. But to hear that, it really annoys you that has been able to create that environment. So, but she's absolutely fantastic. I don't know if I spoke a lot about their social media. I actually had a laugh at one of her social media posts this week. She put a post together about the feeling of when you take your pre-workout, when the pre-workout kicks in.
Yeah.
I was again in the dance floor. I had a good laugh at her post this week. So if anybody isn't following her on social media, she's absolutely fantastic to follow on social media. She gives you a real insights to her day, her training day, her mindset, and a good laugh along the way.
Yeah, John, hold on. Somebody's calling me. Hold on. Oh, it's the dance floor calling. The dance floor's calling.
Dance floor's always calling. The dance floor's always calling.
Oh god, sorry, that's an inside joke from South Africa. Which when we start doing our video podcast, it'll make more sense. So, but yeah, you're right. And I think one other thing that she said was that she wished she'd taken an opportunity and she'd just gone with it and said to the practice, "Do you know what? I'm going to follow my dreams." And there's something really powerful in that, to say, actually, should you have your hands tied to a degree where you want to chase your dream and someone says no, you're like, nah. And I think that's something is very important for people who are listening, who are good enough to be able to play professional sport, whether it's for a county, whether it's for a state, whether it's for internationally, but you have to take the opportunity, because you just never know where that's going to lead you to. Follow your dreams, because everything starts from an imagination or a conversation that you have, and if you are lucky enough to be in a position where you can make it happen, you've got to go for it. And we've had Eilzabeth one side of the coin, you had Abtaha on the other side of the coin. And it's really, really nice to kind of hear the different perspectives. And yes, there's going to be challenges. Life is short. I've talked about in the podcast that it's been a difficult year, but mentality has changed in terms of we want to say yes to a lot of stuff. Obviously, we need to be a little bit more mindful about our families and we want to spend time with them as well. So we've had that good conversation of how we're going to be able to balance the podcast and our other commitments that we'll hopefully be able to speak more about in the coming weeks. But it's really important that we continue to drive the force and drive the energy that we've got from South Africa, that we've got from the UK, that we've got from the Americans now who are teaming up with the American Dental Association and with the traumatology and how that's all developing. And it's really important that we all kind of work together. Yes, there's going to be differences. Yes, there's going to be people who are going to have different opinion about certain things, but that's fine because you have to have people like that. You can't have everybody be the same. People have to be different. And it's really important that we discuss both ends of the spectrum and we give people a voice because ultimately everybody has to make up their own decisions. And it's not fair to silence some and let others speak. So again, that's something that me and you have been discussing about our guests and who we're going to get on and how we're going to do things. And, there's so many people that we can come across. And we've obviously interviewed so many great guests in Dusseldorf. That was all in the video and then in South Africa as well. So we're obviously going to be releasing special series. So the EA4SD and the Sports Dentistry podcast series with the delegates and the organizations that we had interviews with in Dusseldorf. And then obviously with South Africa, that series as well. So over the festive period, there will be hopefully a lot of content for people to listen and watch to. And that will take us nicely into our new platform where we'll start recording video and audio with our guests, trying to get more interaction. And yeah, I think it's pretty exciting conversations to come out in the next few weeks.
Everything starts with a conversation. There was a conversation had 2 years ago in Murrayfield at the European Association of Sports Dentistry conference about how we need to set up a UK Sports Dentistry Association. 1 year later, at the UK Sports Dentistry Association, 2 conversations were had.
Yeah.
One with Vivek about how he wanted to set up a similar setup in South Africa, and one between me and you about how we should start a podcast. And now we are 12 months later, launched South Africa podcast, live, took us a while to get live. We went live audio, just actually having a podcast. And then we went live at the EF4SD conference 2 weeks ago in Dusseldorf, and then there again in Cape Town. And now we're even going to do video.
Yeah.
So, like, if we had chatted about this 12, 13 months ago, what has just happened in the last 2 weeks achieved, you wouldn't have thought about it. And it all starts with a conversation.
Yeah. But also, it starts with a conversation, but it takes, pardon the use of the term here, it takes balls to cojones to kind of get something up and running off the ground. And I think it's something where if I had shown you a photo last year of an image of me, you, and our guest Imogen and Christian in an apartment in Camps Bay, South Africa, doing an interview with the ocean in the background and having live music at intervals during the interview.
Yeah.
I would not, there is no chance in hell. I was like, has AI generated that? Has AI generated that image? Because quite honestly, there's a few thank yous we need to go through, I think, before the end of this podcast. Christian Cardozo, like an angel.
What a guy.
What a guy. Just a beautiful human being, traveled halfway across the world, several flights, missing luggage, brought his ukulele, helped out at the conference, helped the Ganda brothers, was
and
there.
If you want to hear really bad singing, he just posted a video of me and him singing Ireland's Call on his Instagram.
But without him, a lot of this stuff couldn't have happened. He did a lot of heavy lifting. He did a lot of organization as well. I know the Ganda brothers were very, very appreciative of that. Imogen, obviously, as we said, getting her involved. She took the social media game to the next level and really helped engage the South African public.
See, this
Our
is what I
friend,
don't understand. I've already said her about social media. She showed us the engagements after the
yeah,
Cape Town. She says like
yeah,
there's 50,000 engagements. And I was
yeah,
just like, I haven't a clue what you're talking about. But
yeah,
I
yeah,
could see
yeah,
the excitement in her face, so I
yeah,
knew
yeah, yeah, yeah.
it was kicking off.
Yeah. It was also to say thank you to Ilska, who was there, who actually helped us set up the podcast that day and was doing a lot of the behind the scenes photos and videos for us as well.
It was our
Uh,
local tour guide as well.
our local tour guide, yeah, so she really helped us out. So thank you to her. Also want to thank you all the guests who allowed us to interview them in Dusseldorf and in South Africa. Because without you guys and girls, we can't get the podcast to where it needs to be unless people are giving up their free time to be able to speak to us and allow us to ask them questions about their journeys and about how they feel going forward. But I think, lastly, last Saturday, sitting in the stadium next to Vivek and Janesh, I think you were there as well. There was a lot of laughter, but actually there was a lot of tears because it was extremely emotional. A lot of stuff was going on behind the scenes with both of the brothers that not a lot of people will know about, and it's not for us to share. And we had this special conversation, a special bond was created, and a lot of the positive comments that people have been saying to the Gander brothers, and Christian's obviously done a wee song about them as well. But I think it's really important that we do say, thank you, Vivek, thank you, Jinesh, for trusting us, for believing in us, for allowing us to be a part of your family, your South African family. And this is the sort of love we want to create in other organizations as well. We're not just going to keep it with South Africa. We want to spread that love over the world because something really special happened. And if something really special can happen in another country, in another part of the world where maybe people aren't as lucky as what you and I are and what we do. And I feel really passionate about that. And sports dentistry really is starting to get momentum. And it's people like the Gander brothers that are kind of helping us take it to that next level as well.
Yeah, it was I remember the moment you were talking about, and I actually did know the deep conversations that might have been going on elsewhere. But I remember saying to Vivek, has this, I was oblivious, and I was just like, has this whole process brought, because they live in different cities. Janish is in Cape Town, and
Yeah.
Vivek, he's works in the practice of the dad at Johannesburg. I was like, has this whole process in the conference brought you two a little bit closer together? And he just teared up. And it's just a real nice sense that we were able to help that. We were able to be a part of that, and we were able to help that as well. And as we said earlier on in the podcast, it's really hard to explain to anybody that wasn't there just the positive energy and just that great feeling. That's just that warm feeling that you got inside from being part of something special. So if anybody needs a hand to set up elsewhere in the world, me and you are more than welcome to give our advice and our experience and try to bring something special like that to other parts of the world.
I think it's important that if they want advice, that's great. I mean, we don't need to be as hands-on as what we were with South Africa, but I felt they allowed us that opportunity to get hands-on and to be able to help them when we got there. And for that, I will be forever grateful just because of the year that I've had. And that was the kind of point in my life. And I was speaking to my wife when I was there, because obviously I was there for my honeymoon as well. And I was bringing back a lot of memories, and to be able to share that with some special people. And I'm really sorry if I forgot people to say thank you to. And it is difficult to thank everybody, but everybody who was in any way, shape or form involved with that conference.
I would like to thank the Uber driver from Stellenbosch to Cape Town on the Saturday morning. He heard my Irish accent and he played Irish tunes the whole way from
You did.
Stellenbosch to Cape
Full
Town.
hour, yes, a full hour. And
and be the only Irish person with somebody from Paraguay, with somebody from England, with somebody from Scotland, and a full hour of Irish songs.
That's it. Yeah, so I think that really leads us off quite nicely to the end of this podcast. And thank you so much for everybody for being there for us this year and for 2025. And we'll see what 2026 brings, but there's still a few more episodes to go to the end of the year. And please, we welcome feedback, whether that's positive, whether it's negative. You know, we've got thick skin. We really want to spread the word, and we want to really help sports dentistry become a powerhouse like sports medicine is when it comes to helping our athletes. And there's a scope for everybody. There's people who are involved with research. There's people who are involved with getting their hands dirty, so to speak. There's something in it for everybody. And that doesn't necessarily mean having to run things and run conferences and do the sort of things that we're doing. But research is important. We talk about studies and about how we need to be able to explain what's happening with our athletes and how we're able to help and talk about the 1%ers. And I think it's really important that hopefully this conversation can spark that excitement in them, and they can hear from our voices just how amazing it's been with being in Dusseldorf and being in Manchester and being in the South Africa and you being in America and you being in Lithuania.
I think I have to be a little bit more selective next year. I get just to say it, doing everything, but no regrets to any of them, and definitely the likes of Vilnius and Cape Town, places I wouldn't have thought I was going to be in 12 months ago. I'm glad I went, and they've been fantastic.
Actually, so you didn't think you were going to be in Cape Town 2 days before Cape Town, so
I was still holding out to see if I was going to get rained off. But no, it's been a great year, and we got the pods through the year, the first year, and I think we're into episode 32. It's not going to be long to our 50th, and I'm looking forward. I was just thinking about that earlier. I was thinking of many episodes as this so far. I was thinking it'll be around about Easter time. We'll be hitting our 50th, so we must be at that stage thinking think about doing something around that ourselves. So, but thanks to all our listeners. Thanks for everybody's got involved. Thanks for all, as Umar said, the positive feedback. Thanks to all our guests. It's been brilliant. I didn't think that when I suggested we should start a podcast, I just thought it'd give us another opportunity to talk more sports dentistry. I didn't realize how much more it would bring people together in the community of the network, and it's been fantastic. So looking forward to 2026. Don't know what's going to hold.
Yes.
Sure.
Sure,
12 months time when we're leading up to Christmas in 2026, we'll be like, what just happened?
Yeah, I know. And I'll be 1 year older. I'll be the big 4-0 in a couple of weeks' time. So I'll see how how I feel waking up 40 on December the 30th. But yeah, I'm excited to share the conversations the next few weeks, John. And it's been an absolute pleasure, my friend. Shame.
Yeah. Yeah. Shame. Brilliant.
Hold on, before we finish, I know this is an audio podcast, but John, can you give me the blue steel?
I can do left.
I'm so glad this is an audio one until the video. Until next time in the video one.
Until the next time.